a very simple one, a very quick one. Okay, so no worries, just sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. I still don't have a lot of videos on lah for some reason. Either there's something wrong with your connection, or something wrong with you, or just plain stubborn. I don't know which one. Never mind. So I'll just take a screenshot now. So I've got you on record that you are here. Okay, everybody just smile. Okay. Okay. First page, smiling very nicely. Okay, let's see the second page. Okay, let's see the third page. Okay, let's see the fourth page. Okay, let's see the fifth page. Some of you continuously smiling because you don't know which page you're on, right? Okay, next page. Some of you are appearing a few times, right? You're on various pages. Okay, one more page left. Keep your smile, okay? Okay, last page, done. Okay, good. Now we can get down to the real business. Okay, so great. Thanks so much for taking the time to come for this lecture today. Okay, I hope you'll benefit from it. So I'll begin and I will start to share my slides. Okay, can you see my slides?
Yeah. Yes, doctor.
Okay, great. Okay, if you all wanna switch off your if you want to switch off your videos now and go to sleep, it's fine, no worries. Okay, I record your attendance. Okay, great. So today we're going to talk a little bit about biodiversity conservation, okay, pertaining to wild animals in their natural habitat as well as in captivity, right? So in situ and ex situ. Okay, so what is biodiversity actually? So by definition, it is actually a sum of all the organisms. Okay, all the organisms, including the vertebrates, the invertebrates, the microbes. Okay, in a particular environment, and not only the organisms but also their genetic material. Okay, in a particular environment as a whole, or you can narrow it down to the population or to certain groups or communities as well. Okay, so that is biodiversity. Okay, biological diversity of a particular area, right? So most of the time when we talk about biodiversity, we tend to think about the larger vertebrates, right? Larger vertebrates. Of course, we also do biodiversity of invertebrates as well, like insects and things like that, and also gastropods and arthropods. Okay, but in general, for veterinarians, we normally talk about the higher vertebrates. Okay, higher vertebrates that we are interested to conserve. Okay. Now, so what is the present status of our wildlife in our country? It is very sad, as you all know for sure. There's massive decline in numbers. in total numbers as well as total species. Okay, so massive decline, and this decline is mainly due to illegal hunting, okay, trapping, poaching, illegally for the animals themselves, the meat, or for their body parts. Okay, yeah, the skins, the feathers, even certain body parts which are used for medicinal purposes. Okay, so a lot of hunting and poaching going on in the country, and Malaysia is a big hub, okay, for poaching and illegal hunting of wildlife. Okay, we are in one of the top countries in the world, right? When it comes to illegal hunting, we're always doing a lot of illegal things in this country. Okay, so hunting wildlife is one of them as well. And of course, not only the so that we have a lot of laws. We have a lot of laws which regulate wildlife, illegal wildlife trade. But unfortunately, a lot of these laws are not being exercised. Okay, they are not being enforced, and that is where the problem lies. Okay, apart from all these illegal activities, there's also a lot of loss of habitats. Okay, the environment is constantly being destroyed. There's a lot of land use change, conversion of wildlife habitats like forests into oil palm plantation, into housing development. Okay, basically anything to do with human activities. So we are destroying a lot of pristine habitats for our own purposes, and this is causing a lot of detrimental effects on our wildlife. Okay, and of course we are losing these natural resources at an alarming rate. Okay, this rate is not sustainable, so we are taking more than we are giving back to the environment. So when you do that, it is always non-sustainable, and at some point we will start to feel the effects of our actions. Okay, now the reason why it is not sustainable is because the destruction is too rapid. The destruction is too rapid, and when these pristine areas are destroyed, they are converted into non-viable habitats for wildlife. Non-viable meaning they become housing areas, they become residential areas, commercial industry areas. Okay, or even they are turned into monoculture crops. Monoculture meaning like oil palm, rubber, cocoa, coconut sometimes. Okay, so monoculture. So monoculture normally will not support a good diversity of wild animals. The oil palm plantation may be an exception. There is a fair diversity of wildlife in oil palm, but only the oil palm which fringes forests. Okay, the oil palms which are islands or in urban areas generally are very poor of biodiversity. Okay, so the population, the human population is actually increasing tremendously, right? As you can see, the growth is, I don't know, almost exponential, right? You can see in the 1750s, the growth until 1950s was, it was increasing, but it wasn't that great. But now from the 50s and they project until 2050, the growth is going to be so exponential that we are going to be needing a lot of resources, a lot of global resources, natural resources to sustain the population growth. Now, where are we going to get all these resources from? Obviously from the environment, which means that we need to clear more land for housing and for development and for commerce, and we need to get more timber for more building projects. We need to harvest more soil from the environment. We need to harvest more limestone to make the cement that we use to make the buildings. If you drive along the north-south highway, if you reach towards Ipoh side, you can see a lot of limestone outcrop, right? You know the limestone hills? But a lot of the hills are being cut down. A lot of those beautiful hills are being destroyed because they're harvesting the lime. They're harvesting the lime to make cement, okay, which they need to use for building projects. So sometimes what you see along the highway, they just maintain a small facade. Okay, just the front of the hill, which you can see is nice. But when you go behind the hill, it's all totally Just like when you drive along the highway and you see, oh, left and right, so nice, you know, full of trees and all that. Actually, the tree buffer is only about 50 meters or 25 meters. At the back of the tree buffer, where you cannot see, is oil palm or all rubber. So if you have an aerial view, okay, if you have an aerial view, for example, if you're flying into KLIA, all that you see as far as your eyes can see is oil palm, right? But when you drive along the highway, you see, oh, a lot of nice trees along the highway. Actually, the buffer is only about 25 to 50 meters buffer, okay? So you're just fooling everyone that is forest. Actually, it's all oil palm behind. Right. And also, when the population increases, we not only mine for resources, we also contribute to pollution. Okay, there's a lot of wastage and a lot of pollution from our activities, from our daily activities, and things like that. Okay, so in other words, humans are actually the worst species, okay, which ever walked upon planet Earth. The worst species. In fact, if all the humans were to die tomorrow, the Earth will function perfectly fine. Okay, if there's a virus, not like the current COVID one, which is pretty mild. If there's a serious virus and it really wipes out people quickly, then it will be a blessing for the Earth, because we are destroying the Earth at an alarming rate. Okay, alarming rate, and we are the most unimportant species on the planet. Okay, no other species relies on us for their survival. Maybe the cockroaches and the rats, but apart from the cockroaches and the rats, nothing else relies on us for survival. Okay, so if we were to die, everything will go on as normal. In fact, everything will be much better. When during the COVID lockdown, during the MCO, I'm sure you heard, right? The pollution levels dropped tremendously. Animals, there was so much of wildlife, around happily, living their lives without people disturbing them. And so this is just a snapshot of how beautiful the earth will be if there were no humans. Okay, right. So biodiversity loss is not something in the past. Some people think that, oh, extinction only happened in the past with the dinosaurs and so and so. No, today the loss of biodiversity and extinction is 1,000 times higher than what it was in the fossil records. So if you think that, oh, dinosaurs and all those fossils were a thing of the past, nothing else is getting extinct anymore, that is not the case. It's 1,000 times more species are being lost every day compared to when the dinosaurs roamed planet Earth. Okay, so species extinction is a real problem. It is a current problem. It's not a problem of the past. Okay, a simple example is the dodo and the giant moa. They were all around, they're all around at the turn of the century, and then and they all died off, very quickly because of hunting for their meat, right? So just to recap, a few reasons for biodiversity loss. The main thing would be habitat loss and habitat degradation, which is the most prevalent worldwide, and it impacts over 80% of mammals, birds, amphibians, and reptiles. Okay, are actually affected by habitat loss. This is the biggest problem in Malaysia and in Southeast Asia, especially, and also in South America, right? Then we've got overexploitation as well, which accounts for about 30% or more of species loss, and then pollution, which is very close behind as well. But pollution generally affects the amphibians and the invertebrates, okay, a lot faster than it would affect the mammals. Because amphibians, for example, the frogs, they are very sensitive to water pollution. Okay, all the pollution, all the chemicals that go into the water will affect the aquatic life first, and the amphibians tend to be very susceptible. That is why frogs are a very good bioindicator of environmental pollution. So when you go to a particular habitat that should have frogs, and if the frogs are absent, then you know that the habitat is influencing some form of pollution. Okay. Sometimes you may find frogs which are deformed. Okay, they are deformed. So when they are in the tadpole stage, they cannot develop properly. So they may lack limbs. Okay, they may lack limbs. They may have all kinds of skin problems, right, due to the pollution. So frogs are a very good bioindicator of pollution. Of course, invasive species is also a problem, especially in Asia, because there are a lot of invasive species in our country at the moment, which we have imported from South America, from North America, from Japan, from Europe. And these species are kind of controlling a lot of the environment and habitats which are sympatric with the local species. Sympatric means we've got two species living together side by side. A simple example would be the red-eared slider. Have you heard of the red-eared slider? Okay, it is a turtle, a freshwater turtle or terrapin, and it is sympatric with most of our other species of turtles, like the Malayan box turtle, the marsh turtle, Sibon rockella, sometimes even some freshwater turtles like the spiny hill turtle, the Malayan flat shell, the leaf turtle. So they're all sympatric with the slider. And these sliders, they are very gregarious, okay? They can adapt to all kinds of habitats. They can eat almost anything. They are not choosy. They've got a very wide plasticity in terms of their habitat requirements, okay? Very flexible. So they can adapt. And they're very resistant to a lot of diseases as well, okay? So we have done studies locally and we've shown that, you know, in the same habitat where our local turtles have got a lot of parasites and bacteria, these sliders are free of all these parasites and bacteria. So they can withstand the local pathogens much better than the endemic species. Okay, so by doing that, coupled with their ability to eat almost anything and to breed very quickly, they have got a ecological advantage over our local species, which means that over time they will outcompete our local species and they will eventually take over the habitat, right? So that is the problem in invasive species. Then of course we've got fishes like the flower horns, the cichlids, okay, the trouts, which are also very invasive and predatory. They're carnivorous, so they will eat all the small fingerlings of other local fishes. Then we've got invasive birds as well, like the crows. Okay, as you know, they're very gregarious and they are very smart animals. They feed off the fledglings from nests. Okay, they feed off eggs from nests of our local birds as well. And then, of course, overpopulation of a certain species can be a problem, especially the invasive species. Climate change is a big issue in many countries. And then again, as I mentioned, pollution. So this is a graph showing you the various factors that can cause biodiversity loss in three groups of animals, okay? Mammals, amphibians, and birds. And as you can see, habitat loss is a major driver, okay? Major driver for loss in biodiversity and numbers. Not only diversity, also numbers. Then overexploitation, not so much for the amphibians. Overexploitation is more for the mammals and the birds. Invasive species tends to infect the birds quite badly. And then you've got pollution, which infects the amphibians quite badly, okay? And diseases, which infects the amphibians as well. So the latest disease of amphibians, which we will talk about later when I do your reptile and amphibian medicine section, is a fungal disease. Okay, this chytrid fungus is a big problem throughout the whole world and it is killing a lot of amphibians. Okay, so in a nutshell, why do we need to conserve biodiversity? What's so great about biodiversity that we need to worry about it? Okay, if there were no penguins in the world, is it going to be a problem? We've still got a penguin in Batman, right? So what's the problem if there are no penguins? What's the problem if there are no sparrows? If there were no rattlesnakes, or if there were no cobras? What's the problem? Is there any problem? So most people will think that there are no issues with the loss of biodiversity, but you must remember that everything is interconnected. okay, in a very intricate ecological web. We do not know how much we rely on other species for our own survival. Because of the food chain and because a lot of species are interdependent, so when one species is killed off, it has a detrimental effect and even a snowball effect, okay, or a domino effect on other species as well, okay. But more importantly, it is a ethical issue, okay, because we do not inherit the earth from our forefathers, okay. We merely borrow it from our children, okay. This earth is not yours to abuse, okay. When you abuse the earth, you may not suffer the effects of it, but your children definitely will, okay. So when you abuse the earth today, you are abusing the earth for your children and for their children and for the generations to come, right? So you may not feel the effect of your actions today, but your generations to come will feel the effect and they will start to blame you, okay, posthumously, right? So they will look at your old photographs after you're dead and they will say that, you know, why did you actually do this to us, right? So avoid all that, yeah? So this is a very famous saying, it's a native saying, I think, from the South American Indians, I think, if I'm not mistaken, right? We do not inherit the earth, but we merely borrow it from our children. So in a nutshell, we know that the numbers are declining rapidly, and it's a very urgent thing that we need to address. Populations are becoming very fragmented where they are surviving. It's island populations nowadays for most species. Hunting is very rampant. Illegal hunting, illegal trade is very rampant. And as I mentioned, a majority of species are interdependent for their survival. So when one species is affected, the rest will be affected as well in a domino effect. And eventually, all these changes will affect us. Okay, affect us. Okay, yeah, don't worry about this. Okay, now the IUCN. The IUCN is the International Union for the Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources. It has given a rating, okay, a rating to the various species so that we know where these species stand in terms of their position, whether they are extinct, whether they are vulnerable, whether they are threatened or not, okay? So they use a lot of criteria to come up with this rating, and they have rated it from the worst being totally extinct to extinct in the wild, which means that there are still numbers in captivity, critically endangered, and so on and so forth, until data deficient, not evaluated, okay? So humans will fall into which category? Does anybody know? I wish they were extinct, but unfortunately they're not. But which category do humans fall in now?
Least concern.
Exactly, we are in the least concern category, okay? We are the least concerned. Um, if we are wiped out from the earth, it is going to be of least concern to everyone, right? Okay. So various criteria has been used to come up with these IUCN red list categories. They look at population reduction numbers. They look at how restricted the range of the species is, you know, what's the rates of decline, what's the current population size, is the population fragmented, is the population threatened by disease, you know, or overexploitation, and they feed all this into an algorithm, okay, and they come up with a very quantitative analysis of a way to actually categorize the threat, okay, to this species. So if you go to the website, the IUCN website, okay, there's a lot of stuff there. Okay, for example, if you just choose any species that you want to look at, right? And then it comes out with a whole range of information on that species. It talks about, of course, on top, it talks about the category that it's in. Then you've got just a quick summary. Then you've got the classification, you've got images, you've got the bibliography, then you've got the full account of the species, the taxonomy, the current threats, and, you know, the range, and every information you need on the species. So please go to this website. It's very useful, especially if you're doing anything on wildlife and you want to get some information. This is a very good website to actually go and visit. to get some really up-to-date information on the species. Okay, great. Okay, so look at this table, very interesting table. Okay, top 10 countries for extinct species. Who is at number 1? United States. Okay, United States at number 1. Amazing, huh? The very people who are barking at us are actually at number 1. Okay, so they are the worst in terms of taking care of their wildlife. Okay, in the past and also presently. And this is the IUCN 2007, you know, was more than 10 years ago. Now it's even worse, right? And in fact, there are no current data to look at, because I think once they saw United States at the top, they stopped doing this analysis already. Okay, so so Matsales will always point the finger at us Asians and say that we're doing all kinds of things wrong, but you know, they are actually doing worse things in their own country. Okay, so don't believe everything that you hear, especially when it comes from Matsale. Okay, right, but on the flip side of the coin, not extinct species, but threatened species. Who is at the top? Ecuador. United States still come in very high at second. Who's in number 3? Malaysia. Can you imagine that? We have the bronze. We've got a bronze medal from top 10 countries with threatened species. If we train harder, we can even get a gold, I'm sure. Okay, so we are already on the right track to getting the gold. With the rate of our habitat destruction, we're on the right track. So maybe in a couple of years' time, these figures will change, and you know, we may be you know, the champions when it comes to threatened species. Okay, so and this is very sad. This is very sad. You know why it's sad? I'll tell you why it's sad. It is sad because most Malaysians don't know this. Okay, it's sad because most Malaysians are not aware that we are destroying our wildlife at such an alarming rate. Okay, we are, you know, we are like Indonesia, Mexico, and things like that. You know, in fact, we are even worse than them. And we think that we are educated, and you know, and we have all the luxuries in life, but look at the rate of how our animals are being destroyed and being threatened. Okay, it doesn't reflect the nation's capability. Yeah, so I think we should take a step back and see what we're doing, and especially for us as vets, we need to play a more active role. Okay, we need to play a more active role to stop this from getting even worse. Okay, and later on I will tell you, okay, how you can actually contribute and how you can play an active role in biodiversity conservation as a veterinarian. Okay, as a veterinarian, right? Okay, so look at this map. It shows you the distribution of threatened mammals. Okay, only mammals, yeah, only mammals. And as you can see, the hotspots are where? In Southeast Asia. Okay, the hotspots are in Southeast Asia. And if you look at Malaysia, it's pretty red, pretty red. Okay, it's the reddest of all the red. We are even worse than Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, Borneo, okay, Sumatra. We are the worst in Southeast Asia. Okay, so something to be really proud of. Great. And these are the world's biodiversity hotspots. You can see that the hotspots are centered around the equator most of the time because it's tropical, and also the Mediterranean, right? But you look at Southeast Asia. Remember earlier on I showed you that Southeast Asia is a hotspot for threatened species. It is also a biodiversity hotspot. What does that mean? It means that we are so rich, okay, we are so rich in wildlife, and yet we are the worst at taking care of our heritage. We are the worst at taking care of our wildlife. So why is that so? Why is that so? Is it a lack of awareness? Is it a lack of interest? Is it because of greed? Is it because of our typical Malaysian tidak apa attitude? Okay, what's going on? I think it's a combination of everything. Okay, I think it's a combination of everything. So we really need to take a step back, and we really need to think, okay, about what we're doing and how we can improve the situation, right? So what is a hotspot? Okay, hotspot is when you've got a lot of animals in a particular area. Okay, the area supports high number of species, or can support endemic species, which is not found anywhere else in the world. Okay, like for example, the golden lion tamarin is endemic to Brazilian's Atlantic coast. Okay, the rainforest there, and it is almost totally destroyed. So for this particular species, that area is a hotspot. Okay, a biodiversity hotspot. Okay, so I just want to go through very quickly 10 animals that will go extinct in your lifetime. Okay, if you all live for the next 10 years, you will see these animals go extinct. Okay, the lynx, the Iberian lynx, which is found in the Iberian Peninsula in Portugal, Spain. There's only about 100 over individuals left. Okay, it's going to die off in the next probably less than 10 years, maybe 5 years if nothing's done. Okay, so say goodbye to the Iberian lynx. Bye. The Sumatran orangutan, there's less than now, probably less than 5,000 Sumatran orangutans left in the wild, and they're declining at about 1,000 a year, plus a recruitment rate of about maybe 100. You'll probably see them decline over the next 7 or 8 years. Okay, almost extinct in the wild. There may be some in conservation areas, but the ones really in the forest, really in the wild, are going to die off in the next few years. Okay, so say goodbye to the Sumatran orangutan. The northern hairy nose wombat, nobody even knew that this one existed, but it's extremely rare. There's only one colony, okay, left in the world, and it is totally vulnerable to disease, to inbreeding, to genetic introregression, and also natural disasters. Okay, so it's going to go very soon. The Bactrian camel. Did you know that the Bactrian camel is endangered and probably going to be extinct over the next 10 years? Okay. Wild camels, okay, wild ones. We're not talking about the ones in captivity, which will be totally inbred. These are the wild ones where the genetics is still good. There are less than 1,000 left in the Gobi Desert, okay, in Mongolia and China. Only 1,000 left. And with 1,000 animals, there's bound to be a lot of inbreeding going on, and then the genetic vigor will be reduced, and they will be very susceptible to diseases, okay, and genetic defects. So, goodbye, camel. The gazelle, okay, being hunted tremendously, all right, being hunted tremendously. And there's less than 100 in the wild, okay. It's a sad case, okay. It's going to go very soon. The Seychelles sheath-tailed bat. Honestly, who cares about the Seychelles sheath-tailed bat? Okay, we can't even pronounce the name also. And 99.9% of the people in the world didn't even know that this bat existed. Well, there are only about 50 or 100 left, so I guess doesn't matter. People in the future also will never know that this bat ever existed. This mini alligator, okay, the Chinese alligator, is in the Yangtze River. Very endangered, mostly in captivity, but in the wild, the estimate is about 200 left in the wild in the Yangtze River. But they are very susceptible to water pollution, which is a big problem in the Yangtze River at the moment. So what you get is you get a lot of hermaphrodite crocs and alligators, where they have dual sexes, and you also get animals where the gonads are not fully developed, so they cannot reproduce because of all the phenolics and PCBs in the water. It affects their gonads and their hormonal and their reproductive hormones. So although there may be 200 left in a while, we don't really know what is the viable breeding number. Okay, so goodbye to the Chinese alligator. The black rhino, again, is being hunted tremendously for the horns, which apparently can be used as an aphrodisiac, I don't know, and also for ornaments. Okay, this animal is really endangered. Okay, really endangered. The tamarin, the pied tamarin, okay, in Manaus in Brazil, because of ranching, because of cattle ranching, They are clearing lots of forests to raise cattle, and this is destroying all the habitats. This guy lives in the lowlands of the riparian forest, okay, close to the rivers, and they're clearing up all these areas for cattle ranching in Brazil, in Manaus. When I was in Manaus on the Amazon, you can see, and we saw for ourselves all the forest being destroyed, you know, and it's a very sad thing. Okay. Okay, this one is closer to Malaysia, the leatherback. Okay, the leatherback turtle. Now you can almost not see a single leatherback nesting in Malaysia anymore. There used to be thousands and thousands of leatherback females coming up to nest on the beaches of Terengganu and Kelantan and Pahang. Every year, thousands coming up. And the females are so majestic, they are huge, they are really huge. They are the largest marine turtle, of course, they're really huge. And when they come up, it's so majestic, and you know, and they nest, and then it's such a spectacle, you know. And but now, because of all the disturbances and because of trawling and rampant killing of these turtles in our waters, and also because of habitat destruction, okay, they can't find a lot of food anymore in the coral reefs, and therefore nowadays you will be lucky if you even see one a year. You'll be lucky even if you see one. Most years we do not see even a single leatherback coming up to nest anymore. Okay, any of you from Terengganu? Okay, any of you from Terengganu? But this was before your time. In the main roundabout in Kuala Terengganu, I don't know whether you have seen it before. In the main roundabout in Kuala Terengganu, there used to be a huge leatherback turtle on the roundabout, a huge leatherback turtle, okay? And the sign visit Terengganu, you know, and all that crap. Now, they've removed the leatherback because why? It's embarrassing. Because that was the only leatherback found in Terengganu. There was no more wild leatherbacks at all, okay? So they've removed the leatherback and they've put something up there, I don't know what. So, so embarrassing, and that all these animals have gone extinct, locally extinct in the country, right? And the locals even eat the eggs, okay? So it's really sad. Okay, now these are normal extinctions, okay? The Earth has experienced about 5 or 6 mass extinctions in the past. These are normal extinctions, these are natural extinctions which occur due to catastrophic events, okay, or drastic changes in the environment or the climate, right? And then you've got all these eras which you know about very well, right? During the dinosaur and pre-dinosaur periods and all that. But we are heading for the 6th extinction now, okay? And the 6th mass extinction will not be due to catastrophic events, but it will be due to human causes, okay? The 6th extinction will be probably due to a human cause, okay, which will be either pollution, environmental degradation, climate change caused by humans, okay, and things like that, right? And this is a clear example, okay, of how humans have actually caused extinction of animals. Look at this in Australia. The number of this marsupial, I'm not sure what marsupial is this. It's quite a strange looking marsupial. Anyway, it's almost extinct. It was at high numbers, and then when humans arrived 50,000 years ago, boom, down. Look at this. This is some kind of elephant, ancestral elephant, probably a mammoth-like elephant. Not a woolly mammoth, but another kind of mammoth species in North America. Very nice population numbers. Arrival of humans, boom, population down. It's ostrich-like species in New Zealand, in Madagascar. Stabilized. Humans arrived 1,000 years ago only, you know, boom, zero. Right? So look at this, the effect of humans on animals. So that's a sad story, okay? Now we're going to go into an even sadder story. Wildlife conservation in Malaysia. It's so sad. Okay? Bring out your tissue and your handkerchiefs because you're going to start crying. Okay, so these are the organizations which are so-called involved in wildlife conservation in the country, okay? Of course, you got government organizations like Perhilitan, Forest Research Frame, Fisheries, and universities. And then you've got NGOs, non-governmental organizations like WWF, MNS, WCS, Traffic, and so on and so forth, okay? So these are all organizations which are either government or non-government, which are involved directly or sometimes indirectly in conservation of wildlife in Malaysia. Okay, I will not even talk about what the government is doing. Okay, I don't even want to go there. So let's talk about what the NGOs are doing. What are NGOs doing? Nothing. That's the answer. Okay. So WWF only collect money from you at the supermarket, right? And at the train station. God knows where the money goes to. MNS are all just a bunch of townies, I suppose. Used to be really good. They used to do a lot of good work, conservation work, but nowadays it's you know, quite sad. So what I'm trying to tell you is that nothing much is actually being done in the country to conserve wildlife. Yes, there are certain projects here and there which are trying, and I salute them, which are trying to cater for certain species of wild animals, which is good, and I totally support them. But the effort is not enough. Do you know why the effort is not enough? Because these organizations do not get proper support. From who? From the government, and they do not get proper support from the public as well. Okay, who is the public? You, me, and you. We are the public. Okay, what have you done? Ask yourself, what have you done since you entered university? Say in the past 4 years that you've been in UPM. Let's forget about before pre-university days lah. Okay, because pre-university you can plead ignorance and you can say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know about all this. Okay, fine. But now that you're already in university and you're being a veterinarian, what have you done in the past 4 years to contribute to saving our biodiversity or to conservation? Okay, so no need to answer the question, but think about it. Okay, think about it. And for those of you who have done something, congratulations, kudos, I'm very proud of you. But for those of you who have not done anything, I hope that this will be something to jog your conscience and to shake you up a little bit, so that you realize that, as a Malaysian, you need to contribute to biodiversity conservation in whatever way you can. If you don't know what to do, come and talk to me. I have a lot of ideas for you what you can do. And you know that Malaysia is a hotspot for biodiversity, and we are also one of the main countries for biodiversity loss. So I think we all need to get together and do something about it, right? Okay, so how do we go about wildlife conservation? What can we do? Okay, the first thing is we need to protect our habitats. Okay, we need to protect our habitats. The forests, the national parks, the wetlands, and the mangroves are so important. Of course, our rivers and streams, which are being heavily polluted nowadays. There's always water cuts every now and then because some river somewhere is being polluted, and it's so bad because the enforcement is so poor in the country. And our hill forests are being destroyed at an alarming rate because hills are useless to developers and to planters. You can't do much on hills. So how to utilize the area? Flatten the hill. Okay, once you flatten the hill, you can put houses, you can put factories, you can grow oil palm and rubber. Okay, so and then you can use the earth, you can transport, you can sell the earth, okay, as topsoil in nurseries. You can sell the other earth to fill up valleys, so you can also put houses there, right? And the rocks you can sell as well. So a lot of money to be made when you chop a hill down. Or the lime that comes from the hill in limestones, you can sell to those who are making cement. Okay, a lot of money to, and the timber, yeah, you can even sell the timber. So everybody wants to chop down the hills, right? So hill forest is declining rapidly. And of course, our corridors. We really need to protect our corridors. So corridors are patches of forests, of forested habitats, which connect islands of forest. Okay, so when you've got a small patch of forest and you've got another patch of forest a few kilometers away, there must be a corridor in between, okay, to connect the forest patches, so that there is a flow, a flow of genetic material of the animals. Okay, so the animals are not isolated. When animals are isolated in a forest patch, like an island, there's a lot of inbreeding, and there'll be a lot of introregression. There will be a lot of diseases. Okay, if there's an outbreak, it will wipe out the whole population. So what you need to do is you need to connect, okay, all these small patches of forest, so the animals can move freely. Okay, and then they can interbreed, okay, interbreed, and so the genetic pool is being widened, okay. And but of course, these forest corridors need to be guarded lah. Need to be guarded because why? That is where the poachers are sitting down and waiting for the animals to cross. Okay. In fact, what they have done, the government has built things known as viaducts. Okay, viaducts are like, for example, if there's a highway transecting a forest, so what they do is they build an underground viaduct, okay, where the animals can actually cross under the highway and go to the forest at the other side of the highway. Okay, so the animals can cross the highway without going across the highway and getting knocked down. They can go below. Okay, in these tunnels. But what happens when there are these viaducts? You will find that all the poachers are sitting by the viaducts, okay, just waiting for the animals to cross, right? And then it becomes like a happy hunting ground for the poachers. So instead of serving conservation, it is being more detrimental. Okay, another thing that we can do is we can protect certain species. These species may be either flagship species, umbrella, endangered or threatened species, okay? So flagship species are species which are very prominent, okay, very prominent species which can act as ambassadors for conservation. For example, the Malayan tiger, okay, or the orangutan. These are very charismatic species. Charismatic meaning everybody knows about them. They are so famous, okay. They are so lovable. Everybody wants to protect the tiger and the orangutan. Okay, nobody cares about the seashells, sheath-tail bat. Okay, so but the orangutan and the tiger, for example, are flagship species. So you can get a lot of money to conserve them, right? But what you do is you use them to protect other species as well. So you conserve, for example, the tiger habitat in the Belum Forest Reserve. Okay, you conserve the tiger habitat, then everything that comes in the tiger habitat will be protected as well. Okay, so they are flagship species. The other one is umbrella species. Very similar, but umbrella species tend to have a wider home range, like the elephant, for example. There's a wide home range. So when you protect the elephant, habitat and the elephant's home range, you automatically protect all the other species which survive in a huge elephant home range as well. Then of course you've got endangered species and threatened species which need very tailored kind of conservation measures, okay, to protect them. Okay. Of course, education and awareness is very important, starting from primary, secondary schools up to universities and colleges. Public awareness is very important. We also need to make the stakeholders aware of the problem. Who are the stakeholders apart from the public? The government organizations, the NGOs, they're all stakeholders, okay? Now, the decision makers, like the government policy makers are very important people. They need to be convinced. They need to be convinced that conservation must be a priority in the country. Okay, biodiversity conservation. And sometimes it's not easy. Okay, so when you, if at all, you get the opportunity to be involved in hardcore conservation, right? You will realize that 99% of the time, it is not so much about the animals, but it's about the humans. Okay, it is about convincing people, convincing policymakers, convincing the orang kampung, convincing the orang aslis, convincing the headman, convincing the politicians, okay, the government agencies on what to do, on legislation, on enforcement, on patrolling. Okay, and 99% of the time, it is actually engaging people to carry out the conservation agenda, right? So you must be a people person. If you want to go into conservation, you must be able to interact and communicate well, because you need people to carry out the conservation agenda, okay? You cannot do it on your own, okay? Impossible. Great. The other thing is that, do you know that the leopards in Malaysia are melanistic, they're all black? Okay, very rarely do you find a spotted leopard. Of course, the black ones are also spotted, but they are very black, so you can't see the spots. But what I mean by spotted is, those typical orange and black spotted leopards. They are not really found in Malaysia. So far, there are only a few reports only. Most of the leopards south of Thailand, from the Isthmus of Kra, you know where the Isthmus of Kra is? You know, South Thailand, where there's a small peninsula, the isthmus, then it comes down to Peninsular Malaysia, right? That narrowing in the Asian mainland, has caused a bottleneck. It's caused a bottleneck, and a lot of species which are found in Peninsular Malaysia have got very peculiar genetic makeup because of this bottleneck, and it's isolated from the mainland Asia, right? And this bottlenecking effect has caused a majority of our leopards to be black. Okay, you won't find these black leopards so common in other places. Okay, apart from southern of Thailand and in Peninsular Malaysia. This is something so unique. Okay, we've got black leopards in our country, right? So when you watch the movie Black Panther, panthers and leopards are similar. Okay, when you watch Black Panther is happening in Africa, right? The reason why they call it a Black Panther because black leopards are rare. Okay, in that part of the world. The leopard range from Africa to the Middle East, right down to Middle Asia and down to Southeast Asia. From the whole range, you find black panthers predominant in Peninsular Malaysia. So something very unique, okay, for us to take care of. So Malaysian wildlife, again, poaching and meat trade, apart from habitat destruction, poaching and meat trade is a big problem, a big problem in the country, okay? A lot of animals are being hunted down for the meat. For example, these bears are being slaughtered for their paw, okay, especially their paw, which is supposed to be very tender. You cook it with ginger, you know, some shallots, you fry the ginger with some garlic, then you fry the bear paw and you throw in some shallots. Oh, amazing. Okay, so it's so tender and succulent. Okay, that's why everybody wants to eat the bear paw. That's why they're trapping bears. In fact, when we did our study in Crow Wildlife Reserve, the Crow Wildlife Reserve, okay, it's a wildlife reserve which is supposed to be totally protected, and a majority of the bears that we trapped, because we were doing radio collaring, we collared the bears to track their movement with satellite collars. Majority of them had one paw missing. One animal had two paws missing. Okay, why? Because they are left. They get caught in these snares. Okay, there are a lot of snare traps in the forest. We spend a lot of time removing snare traps from the forest. So these wire snares actually will latch on to the paw of the animal, and then eventually what will happen is that either the thing will really cut through until the bone, and then the animal just tucks and pulls off the paw, okay, and then he limps away, and hopefully it will survive the infection, and you know, so it becomes a meme. Sometimes they even chew the paw out. Okay, they bite off their paw because they want to escape from the trap. So even in our so-called protected forest in Malaysia, we see a lot of hunting and poaching going on, and the hunting and poaching is so rampant, right? In fact, when I don't know how familiar you are with forests and how often you go into the forest, but I spent a lot of my life in forests. Okay, in fact, there was one time when I was in the forest for 6 months continuously, non-stop. Okay, didn't ever come out of the forest because we were doing wildlife surveys in Perlis, okay, close to the Thailand border. So there's so much of traps in our forests. Okay, you see so many hunting camps, illegal hunting camps, mostly Thai poachers will come in from Thailand, and orang aslis are also helping the poachers nowadays because they can sell. So orang aslis don't hunt animals anymore for their own consumption. They are hunting animals for trade and for selling the animal parts. Okay, that's very unfortunate. And they don't use blowpipes anymore. All the things that you see in the TV, all bluff. Okay, they're not wearing blowpipes. They're not using blowpipes and using chawat anymore. They have got Calvin Klein jeans and Cartier watches, and they're using rifles. Okay, now to shoot the animals, and dart. Even somebody even got dart guns. Okay, so and they're all hunting for commercial purposes now, right? Of course, there are a lot in the interior which are still doing sustainable hunting, which is fine for their own families, and I've got nothing against that. It's been going on for years and it's a tradition. It's totally fine if they hunt in a sustainable manner for their own consumption. But we find that nowadays they're not doing that. They're hunting for illegal purposes for trade. Okay, and they all have got satellite phones, and they're in constant communication with the poachers. So what they do is so orang asli are very good trackers, right? So they will track tigers, then they will know how old the tracks are, they will follow the tracks, and once they know where the tiger is moving, they will call the poachers, and the poachers will arrive within a day or two, and they will hunt down the tiger and kill it, right? Okay, so yeah, so these are all the same stuff. So what are we doing in the country to conserve wildlife? As I mentioned, there are some beautiful projects going on with WWF, with WCS, and also with Perhelitan, where they are studying the tiger ecology, population genetics. So we in UPM, we've got the Center for Wildlife Research and Conservation. I'm not sure if you heard of it or not. I'm currently the head of the center. So what we're doing, we are engaging with all these NGOs, and we've got a tiger project going on now, a genetic project. We have been involved with the tiger-human conflict in Terengganu, where in the oil palm estates in Terengganu, they are raising cattle in the oil palm, and a lot of the cattle are being killed by tigers in the oil palm, mainly because these people are not taking care of the cattle properly. Okay, they are not. They don't bring the cattle into a corral in the evenings. They let the cattle roam out. Close to the forest edge, and of course these tigers, because they've got no more prey in the jungles. There's no more deer for them, hardly any more wild boar. So when they see a nice cattle walking around, obviously they will go for it, right? So we don't blame the tiger. So what we did was we mitigated this conflict, whereby we educated the farmers how to take care of the cattle, to do a lot more feedlotting, and to corral the cattle in a paddock, in the evenings after feeding and things like that. And we reduced the predation to zero. Okay, and there was no more tiger conflict anymore. And the farmers were happy because the cattle was putting on better weight. We could attend to them better. We could give them antiparasitics. As you can see, the cattle here are all like soup tulang, okay? Because no proper nutrition, a lot of diseases. So we educated them on proper cattle management, and we managed to solve the human-tiger conflict. This is an example of one of the cattle that was attacked by a tiger. So these are all the agencies which are involved, okay? The Wildlife Department, our vet services, FELDA, UPM, and WWF. Okay, so we've also done and we're still doing the ecology of Malayan sun bears in Peninsular Malaysia, where we're looking at the ecology and also the genetics. Also bucking deers, okay? We're working with the Ministry of Science to sort out the bucking deer genetics and also to do some conservation breeding. We've been involved for a long time in turtle conservation, looking at the trade of our freshwater turtles and tortoises. This is due to the Asian turtle crisis. As you know, a lot of chelonians are being exported from Malaysia to Indochina and China, okay, where they end up in the meat trade. They're being harvested for their meat. So there's tons and tons. You wouldn't believe it. You really wouldn't believe it. If you visit these traders, okay, they have got a huge, kind of like a huge, what do you call that? Huge buildings, okay, huge buildings, just cement floor, basic cement floor buildings, but the turtles are piled up to about almost a meter, one on top of the other, just stacked up. Okay, tons and tons of turtles of various species and also tortoises, just waiting to be exported, and they are sold by the kilo. Okay, just pile them all up in a gunny sack, weigh and sell. And when we do our surveys, we can see a lot of this trade going on, and so we are doing something to address this. We are also looking at the health of the orangutans in the Ulu Segama forest in Sabah. We're looking at their stress levels. We're looking at how habitat loss and conversion to oil palm actually influences the stress levels and the health of the orangutans. And we found that it does. Okay, a lot of the orangutans which are close to human inhabitation and who lived in disturbed forests have got all kinds of health issues, and their cortisol levels are really high. Okay, so they're really stressed. Then yeah, this is a pet project of mine together with Dr. Amin. I don't know whether you remember Dr. Amin. We were doing some conservation of our red jungle fowls, and I'm sure I've mentioned this to you before. The red jungle fowl is the ancestor of all the chicken breeds in the world. Okay, so we have got the ancestral genotype of all the chickens in the world, which is our red jungle fowl, and they look so beautiful, and they're like birds. The pure ones are almost like birds. They can fly like birds, and they are so small. Okay, and so we're doing something to conserve them and do some captive breeding. Okay, blah blah blah. Oh yeah, this is the conservation of habitats. This was another project that we were involved in. So this is Thailand. Then this is our Perlis State Park. Okay, and Wang Kelian. So we did surveys here. This is one I was in for about 6 months. We did surveys, and eventually, because of our recommendations, we found a lot of unique species and endemic species there. And then we recommended to the state government, and now they have turned it into a state park. Okay, so this is one of the ways in how we can be involved to actually conserve biodiversity by conserving habitats. Yeah, this is a Perlis State Park where we managed to get the government to gazette it as a park because we found this very rare stump-tailed macaque. Okay, the stump-tailed macaque, which is only found in Perlis. Okay, independent. Of course, they go up to Thailand and all that, but in Malaysia, only found in Perlis State Park. Okay, very rare macaque. Okay, so back to you. What can vets do in biodiversity conservation? Okay, very simple. We can be involved in something known as conservation medicine or One Health. Okay, conservation medicine essentially is an integration of various disciplines: veterinary, medical, ecology, biology, engineering, chemistry, you name it. Okay, anybody can get involved. Dentists, chefs, gardeners, housewives, everybody can get involved. Conservation medicine is holistic. Anybody who can contribute something is welcome. Okay, so what is your role as a vet? Okay, so in conservation medicine, we look at, of course, biodiversity conservation, but we study the interrelationships, okay, between humans, animals, and the environment. Okay, this very complex relationship or interdependency of all the living organisms in an ecosystem. Okay, we look at ecosystem health as well. How the ecosystem health influences these animals and humans. We look at how disease is being transmitted. Okay, so one very good example of how vets can get involved in conservation medicine is our current COVID outbreak, right? It is a zoonotic disease from wild animals, from the forest. And because these animals were either removed from the forest for whatever reason, either for food or for pet trade, or habitats were being destroyed. And what happens is that when habitats are destroyed, you will find that the wild animals will start encroaching into domestication, okay, into domestic environment. I will talk further about this when we do our zoonotic disease lecture later, okay? But for now, just remember that habitat destruction causes wild animals to encroach into human urban areas because they cannot find food, they cannot find shelter anymore in the destroyed habitats. So they come to human settlements where they can find food, they can rummage through the dustbins, they can find shelter, they can find nasi lemak, they can find KFC, okay? And lots of food they can find in our human environment. So conservation medicine looks at how diseases is also being transmitted from animals to humans as well, right? In a One Health framework. So vets can, of course, work in a zoological park where you can look at the husbandry, management, medication, prophylaxis, nutrition, breeding of wild animals, okay? You can manage the quarantine facilities, do disease monitoring, look out for outbreaks. You can take care of the welfare of the animals, you can educate the public and things like that, okay? But in situ conservation, in situ means animals are in the wild. Okay, vets play a very important role for disease monitoring, for disease evaluation, for stress profiling, for habitat viability, for pollution monitoring, for breeding success, for genetic health. Okay, a lot of vets get involved in wild animal health in the wild. Okay, not so much in captivity, but in the wild. Okay, but of course, when you bring them into breeding facilities, then you can start doing other things as well, okay, like disease monitoring. You can do reproductive management, neonatal care, and AI and things like that, okay? So you can see this is a gorilla because there's no more mate for the gorilla in the wild. So he brought it into captivity, and he said, I hope this newfound friendship wanes before the mating season. Okay. Otherwise, the gorilla will be in trouble. Right. Okay. You can also be involved in a rescue and rehab centers. A lot of vets are involved in this area, okay, where you do emergency treatment. Animals are injured in the wild. You got to go in, rescue the animal, relocate the animal, okay, transport the animal. Got to do a quick health evaluation. Then you got to even monitor the animal in captivity, release the animal back into the wild when it's healthy, and then you've got to monitor it when it goes back into the wild. So you will be involved in various processes, okay, like capture, handling, translocation, disease monitoring. Very exciting. Okay, very exciting. So many areas where vets can be involved, okay? And we have a very vital and important role as a veterinarian, professionally, but also as a citizen of the country, okay? So you have got dual role. Your role is as a citizen to fulfill your normal citizen duties, but then you've also got your professional duties as a veterinarian, okay, which only you can do. Okay, the normal citizens cannot do it. So that is a very important role for you, okay, in biodiversity conservation, to ensure that our natural resources are conserved, because we do not inherit it from our forefathers, but we are merely borrowing it from our children. Okay, always remember that. And as I mentioned to you previously, whenever you see my face, what must you remember? What is your business? Anybody whom I did the rotation with, I hope you remember this. Can you answer? What is your business?
Saving lives.
Cannot hear you. What's your business?
Saving lives.
Yes, you are in the business of saving lives. That's exactly what I told you during the rotation, right? I'm sure some of you got the rotation with me. Some of you were lucky enough to get a rotation with me. So you are in the business of saving lives. That is all you do. You save animal lives, but you also save human lives, okay? Through your knowledge of zoonotic disease, through your intervention in public health, in food safety, in food security, in livestock production, okay? You are in the forefront of human health. Don't ever forget that. You are involved in human health even before the medical doctors, because you are in the prophylactic stage of human health. You ensure the food that we eat is safe. The livestock that we produce are free of chemical residues. Okay, they are raised in a healthy manner. They are free of diseases. You check them for zoonotic infections. You are taking care of food security. You are taking care of the zoonotic infections in our pets. Okay, and in the urban wildlife. So you are in the forefront of human health. Don't ever forget that. And you are, of course, in the forefront of animal health. So you are in the business of saving lives. Not in the char kway teow, not in the goreng pisang, not in the burger business, and certainly not in Shopee and Grab, okay? You are in the business of saving lives. And don't ever forget that. When you remember that, it will help you with your studies, it will help you with your work in the future, and it will give you a drive, okay? It will give you a passion to actually do your duty as a veterinarian properly, because you know that you are the only person who is responsible for saving animal lives. And you also contribute very significantly to human health as well. Okay, good. So thank you very much. Do you have any questions? Anyone? You've all switched off your videos, so I assume that you're either not there or you've fallen asleep. But doesn't matter. I'm so used to talking to myself already after giving all these online lectures. It is very difficult, you know, it's so difficult to give online lectures. I don't know whether you tried it before or not. It's really difficult because it feels like you're talking to yourself and there's no response from anyone. And it's like shock scenery most of the time, because you don't know whether anybody is actually understanding what you're saying or not. And, you just pretend that everything is okay, and we hope that everything is okay. And you're also pretending to listen to me, I know. your video is on, but you are on your phone chatting and you're looking at something else and you're playing something and all that. I know, okay, I know, because that's exactly what I do as well. When I'm in a meeting, my video is on and pretending to look at the screen, but I'm checking my phone. I'm actually have another computer doing my work somewhere. Or I'm sending an email, whatever. That's normal, okay? That's normal. Don't worry. Just means that you're normal, okay? But in any event, I hope it's been beneficial for you. If you have any questions, and if you're too shy to ask me now, then feel free to email me, okay? And I will try to address it as much as I can. So any questions, anyone? Before we go? No questions, okay.
No from me, Doctor.
Sorry?
No question from me, Doctor.
Okay. Everybody's okay, huh? If everybody is okay, and just so that I know that you are still alive, can you put a thumbs up? You need to show your face. Some are obviously dead. Or some maybe got no thumb. If you got no thumb, you can put any finger lah, but don't put the middle finger, okay? Okay, great. So thank you so much. Then I will see you for the next lecture, which is going to be on reptile and amphibian medicine, I think, which should be very exciting. And then, of course, we've got our zoonosis lecture as well. Okay, so all the best. Take care. Be safe. And do email me if I can be of any assistance to you, not only regarding this lecture, but if you want to know about how you can be involved in conservation, you know, or if you need any contacts, if you want to do any practicals, or you know, or if you need to get in touch with anybody in the conservation arena, and if you feel I can help you, then just give me a shout, okay? And I'll be very happy to facilitate whatever you are trying to achieve. Okay, so take care, good night, and sorry, good evening, and have a great evening. Okay, bye.
Thank you, doctor.
Thank you, doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.